The mysterious arrival. It was a day that would go down in history, a moment that would change the galaxy's perception of Earth forever. The aliens thought they had it all figured out. They had studied humans, observed their weaknesses, and prepared for anything that might challenge their superiority. But they weren't prepared for Doc. The aliens, with their advanced technology and their great military might, were convinced they could easily control and overpower the humans of Earth. They had seen humans fight wars, struggle, and even win battles against impossible odds. But this was something they had never seen before. They had no idea what they were walking into. The invasion had begun quietly, with the aliens arriving on Earth under the cover of darkness, slipping past Earth's defenses. They expected resistance, of course, but nothing they couldn't handle. Their ships hovered above major cities, and their ground forces landed in strategic locations, but they didn't know where the real challenge would come from. As the invasion unfolded, the aliens realized something unsettling. Earth wasn't just another planet. It wasn't just another species that could be conquered. There was something different here, something they didn't understand. And at the heart of it was a single human, Doc. Doc wasn't a soldier. In fact, no one knew exactly what Doc's rank was, or even what role they played in Earth's defense forces. But Doc had been around for a long time. And in every battle, in every war, Doc had been there. The aliens didn't know this yet. They didn't realize that Doc wasn't like the other humans. As the aliens began their attack, they assumed that their forces would sweep through Earth with ease. They launched their first assault, expecting to crush the humans in a matter of hours. What they didn't expect was Doc. No orders were given. No commands were made. Yet the humans rallied together, responding to a force stronger than just orders. A chilling silence filled the battlefield as the first alien assault failed. Their soldiers, well-trained and heavily armed, couldn't understand why they were being stopped. They were facing resistance unlike anything they had ever encountered before. The humans fought with something else, something the aliens could not define. They fought with an unspoken unity, guided by a mysterious force, and at the heart of it all was Doc. What the aliens didn't know was that Doc didn't need to speak. Doc didn't need to give orders. There was something about this human, something that made them more than just a soldier. In that first battle, they saw it. Doc had a power that no one had ever anticipated. The aliens thought they were in control. They thought they could overwhelm Earth with their superior technology and strength. But as they faced Doc and the humans who followed them, the aliens began to question everything they had believed. They had underestimated humanity, and they had certainly underestimated Doc. As the first battle ended, the aliens realized they were dealing with something far greater than they had ever imagined. They had no idea how deep this mystery went, and they had no idea how badly they had underestimated Earth's ability to fight back. As the battle ended, silence lingered in the air, thick with uncertainty. The alien forces had retreated, but it wasn't a victory. It was a puzzle, a terrifying puzzle that the invaders couldn't yet solve. They had come to Earth expecting to conquer, expecting to bend the humans to their will. What they hadn't expected was resistance so unyielding, so instinctive. The humans didn't follow their orders, and yet they fought with an unspoken coordination. The aliens had lost their first strike, and they had lost to something they couldn't explain. The human resistance wasn't just about strength. It was something deeper, something that resonated within their very being. It wasn't until later that they learned the truth behind this phenomenon. The key was Doc. The alien command structure was built around the idea that power came from above, that orders from higher ranks were the way to control forces. Their species had evolved with rigid hierarchies, and they relied on clear chains of command. But on Earth, it wasn't the orders that made humans strong. It was their will. And Doc had tapped into that power like no one else. The alien leaders gathered in their command center, analyzing the data from the failed assault. They were confused. How had their troops been beaten? They had sent their most advanced units, their most fearsome soldiers. And yet, They had been stopped cold. There was no obvious leader among the humans, no one in charge. It didn't make sense. One of the alien generals, a veteran of countless battles across the galaxy, stared at the screen in front of him, frustration growing. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was something important they had missed. They didn't need orders, he muttered to himself. There's something else going on here, something we haven't even considered. And then a report came in. Doc had been seen again. This time, they hadn't been just part of the resistance. They had been everywhere, in every skirmish, in every battle. Doc was there, rallying humans with no more than a look or a gesture. The alien forces began to realize that the Earth they thought they understood was far more dangerous than they had imagined. While their forces prepared for another assault, the aliens began to investigate further. Who was this Doc? What was their rank? How did they control the humans so effortlessly? The more they dug, the more they found their initial assumptions breaking down. What they discovered next would leave them speechless. A report from their scouts revealed something staggering. Doc wasn't just a leader. Doc was a force unto themselves. They had no formal military training, no background that would explain their ability to command. In fact, Doc was not even officially recognized as a member of any Earth military unit. They were a civilian, a medical officer, a doctor. But this doctor wasn't just any human. Doc had a natural ability to command without speaking, without raising a hand. The aliens had seen humans fight in wars before, but never like this. Never with this unity. Never with this silent force behind them. The more they learned, the more they realized that Doc wasn't just a figurehead. They were the heart of humanity's strength. The aliens, who had believed themselves to be the most advanced species in the galaxy, were now faced with a terrifying truth. They had underestimated the humans. They had underestimated the power of their unity, their will to survive, and most frightening of all, the unseen force that Doc wielded over them. And it was this very force that terrified the alien commanders. Doc's power was not just in their ability to lead. It was in their ability to inspire. Humans didn't follow Doc because of orders. They followed because they felt a deeper connection, something that went beyond words or commands. It was an instinct, a bond, a shared understanding that when Doc was present, they would fight, they would survive, and they would win. The more the aliens observed, the more they realized that the battle they were in wasn't just a war for Earth. It was a war for the future of the galaxy itself. And Doc, this mysterious human, was standing at the center of it all. The alien generals, once confident and ready to destroy Earth, now found themselves unsure. They had never faced an enemy like this before. They had no strategy to combat Doc's unseen power, and they had no idea how to break the unity that Doc had sparked in the humans. The galaxy was starting to look much different now. And the aliens were beginning to understand. Earth was not just a planet to be conquered. Earth was a planet that would never be ruled by anyone but its own. As the days passed, the alien forces grew more desperate. Each attempt to reclaim the upper hand in the war was met with unforeseen resistance. No matter how many soldiers they sent, no matter how many weapons they deployed, they couldn't stop the momentum building on Earth. It wasn't just the physical strength of the humans that amazed them. It was the mental fortitude, the resilience, the ability to adapt and overcome. And at the heart of this powerful resistance was Doc, the figure they still couldn't understand. Every time the aliens made a move, Doc was there, seemingly anticipating their every strategy, turning the tides in favor of the humans. The alien commanders couldn't figure out how this one individual could hold so much influence. It was as if Doc were always several steps ahead of them. The very thought of Doc was enough to send a chill down the spines of the alien leaders. "Impossible," one of the generals said, pacing nervously. "We have all the technology. We have advanced weaponry. How can this be? How can a single human be so powerful?" The questions gnawed at their minds, but there were no answers to be found in their databanks or military strategies. The more they learned about Doc, the more they discovered that this wasn't a matter of skill or experience. It was something far deeper. Doc had no formal rank in any of Earth's military organizations. They had no battle-hardened background. They were a doctor, someone trained to heal, not to lead soldiers into combat. Yet, here they were, standing as the linchpin of humanity's resistance, commanding the entire Earth without uttering a single order. This invisible power that Doc wielded was unlike anything the aliens had encountered before. It wasn't about fear. It wasn't about control. It was about trust. The humans followed Doc not because they were forced to, but because they trusted them. And that trust was enough to turn the tide of the war. The alien generals realized they had made a grave mistake. They had assumed that the humans would be easy to dominate, that their primitive ways and disorganized society would crumble under a well-structured attack. But what they hadn't accounted for was the strength of humanity's unity. They hadn't accounted for Doc. As the days turned into weeks, the alien forces began to fracture. Soldiers who had once been proud and certain of their mission now whispered doubts. They began to wonder why they had been sent to fight a species so unlike any they had ever encountered. What was so special about these humans that made them so different? Why did they keep fighting, even when all seemed lost? The turning point came when the aliens, after one more failed attempt to subdue Earth, encountered an unexpected reality. It wasn't their advanced technology or superior numbers that they had relied upon. It was something far more vulnerable, yet far more dangerous. Doc had the power to inspire an entire world to believe in the impossible. The aliens' failure wasn't just physical. It was mental. They had underestimated the power of human hope and belief. And now, they were facing the consequences of that miscalculation. In the alien command center, a tense meeting was underway. The commanders were at their wits' end. They could no longer deny the truth. The humans weren't just fighting to survive. They were fighting for something much greater. They were fighting for a future. And at the center of it all was Doc, the one human who didn't need to command, the one human who could make a difference without saying a word. "This isn't just a battle for Earth," one of the generals said quietly. "This is a battle for the entire galaxy. If we can't stop them now, we may never be able to." The realization hit the aliens like a tidal wave. They had underestimated the human spirit, and now they were faced with the terrifying truth. Earth was no longer a planet to be conquered. It was a force to be reckoned with, and they had awakened something in humanity that they couldn't undo. As the days turned into weeks, the alien sense of dread deepened. The forces they had sent to Earth, once so confident in their superiority, were crumbling under the unexpected power of humanity. The Earthlings, once thought to be disorganized and primitive, were now displaying an unyielding determination. And at the heart of this powerful resistance was Doc, the mysterious human who seemed to have the power to lead without speaking a single order. The alien commanders had reviewed every piece of data they had on Doc. They couldn't find a reason for the inexplicable influence this one human had over the entire planet. No formal training, no military background, nothing that should have made Doc an effective leader. Yet Doc was more than just a leader. They were a symbol. Doc was the embodiment of what humans could accomplish when they stood together, when they believed in each other. The aliens watched as entire battalions of their forces were outmaneuvered, not by superior technology or advanced strategies, but by human ingenuity and relentless spirit. The humans adapted quickly, learning from every defeat, evolving their tactics on the fly. Every move they made seemed to be anticipated, as if Doc were guiding them without ever issuing a single direct command. One particular alien general, a seasoned strategist, found himself unnerved by the pattern. He sat alone in his command center, surrounded by holographic displays of Earth's defense systems, trying to make sense of it all. His mind raced as he reviewed footage of one of Earth's most recent victories. Humans, barely equipped, had managed to force back a much stronger alien battalion using nothing more than their wits. "This can't be," the general muttered to himself, watching the humans' creative tactics unfold. "How are they doing this? They're not supposed to be this resourceful." The alien forces had relied on brute force and technological advantage, But Earth's warriors, led by Doc, fought with something else, something the aliens couldn't understand. An innate drive to protect, a willingness to endure, and a relentless will to fight for the future. As reports continued to flood in, the aliens found themselves facing an uncomfortable truth. It wasn't just that Earth had resilient fighters. It wasn't just that humans could learn and adapt faster than they expected. It was that the very foundation of human combat was based on empathy and a deep connection to their home planet. Doc wasn't commanding out of some cold, calculated strategy. Doc was leading because they truly cared about every individual under their protection. And it was this sense of community, this shared sense of humanity, that made their army so formidable. The aliens, cold and calculating, could not comprehend the power of human emotion. They had been trained to think of combat as a series of calculations, probabilities, and technology. But Doc had shown them that the human spirit was not something that could be quantified. It was a force unto itself, unpredictable, wild, and impossible to control. In the Alien Command Center, a somber conversation took place between the highest-ranking officials. "What do we do?" one of the commanders asked. "Every time we think we have the upper hand, they turn the tables on us." The lead commander stared at the screen, which displayed a live broadcast of Doc interacting with the human forces. There was no grand speech, no rallying cry. Instead, Doc was simply among them, quietly organizing, encouraging, and making decisions with calm efficiency. "They're not just fighting for survival," the commander said, his voice tinged with frustration. "They're fighting for something we can't understand." The conversation turned grim. They realized that their tactics, their technological superiority, meant little against the human resolve. They had underestimated Earth. And now, with Doc at the center of their resistance, they faced a power they couldn't match, something more than mere military might. The next phase of their plan was discussed, but even as they spoke of more forceful measures, doubt crept into their minds. Would it be enough to break the human spirit? Could they truly stop Earth from fighting back? The answer remained uncertain, but one thing was clear. The more they faced off against Doc and the humans, the more they realized they were not up against a planet of mere fighters. They were facing the very essence of survival itself. As the war raged on, the cracks in the alien forces began to show. The humans, led by Doc, weren't just winning battles. They were reshaping the battlefield itself. The alien commanders had underestimated one thing above all: the unbreakable resolve of a species that had fought for its survival against countless odds. Earth's warriors, from the smallest child to the most seasoned soldier, were united by an unshakable belief in their ability to prevail, no matter the cost. The alien forces were powerful, their technology advanced, but they were missing something vital, the very thing that Doc had come to symbolize. They were missing the human drive, the insatiable hunger to fight for the ones they loved, for their homes, for their planet. The humans weren't fighting for conquest. They weren't fighting for glory. They were fighting for the future, for the right to exist. Doc, though often silent, had become a symbol of this spirit. The humans didn't need grand speeches or orders shouted from the front lines. They needed a quiet example of strength, of calm leadership in the face of impossible odds. And that was what Doc provided. Every decision, every action Doc took, was grounded in the belief that the strength of the human heart would outlast even the most advanced technology. It wasn't long before the alien commanders, who had once believed their victory was inevitable, began to feel a growing sense of dread. Reports from their spies on Earth showed a resistance that was becoming increasingly sophisticated. No matter how many resources they poured into the conflict, no matter how many battles they won, the humans seemed to bounce back stronger than before. "We've underestimated them," the alien general admitted, his voice heavy with the weight of the realization. "It's not just their technology. It's not just their numbers. It's something we can't measure. Their will to fight, it's endless." A deep silence fell over the command center. The aliens were accustomed to seeing opponents crumble when faced with superior firepower. But this was different. The humans were not crumbling. They were adapting, learning, and evolving at a pace that no one had predicted. In one particular skirmish, the humans had lured a highly advanced alien warship into a trap. The aliens had assumed they were facing a group of uncoordinated humans, scattered and desperate. What they encountered instead was a highly organized force that had anticipated their every move. The humans had even used their own technology against them, repurposing alien weapons and turning them into tools of their own destruction. The sheer audacity of it all stunned the aliens. But it wasn't just the technology or the tactics that impressed them. It was the way humans fought, the way they refused to surrender, even when the odds were stacked against them. The aliens had never encountered anything like it before. Back on Earth, Doc was once again at the center of it all. The humans had managed to capture an alien command post during a particularly fierce battle, and Doc had taken charge, not by issuing commands, but by simply being present. In the heart of the battle, surrounded by chaos, Doc calmly surveyed the situation, offering guidance when needed, making decisions with a quiet confidence that reassured the entire team. It was this calm under pressure, this ability to remain steadfast when the entire universe seemed to be against them, that made Doc so valuable. In the eyes of the aliens, Doc had become a symbol of something they feared more than any weapon or strategy, a symbol of the strength that lay within the human spirit. The alien general, now fully aware of the growing human resistance, gathered his top officers. They had to discuss their next move, but there was no longer the certainty that once came with their strategies. Earth's defenders, led by Doc, were not merely fighting, they were thriving. "We need to strike harder," the general said, but his words lacked the confidence they once carried. "We can't afford to let this continue. Earth is proving to be a more formidable enemy than we've ever faced." As the meeting ended, the tension was palpable. The humans had already proved their resilience. Now they were showing their adaptability, their creativity, and their ability to turn the tables on their aggressors. The galaxy had underestimated the humans, and now they were paying the price. But despite their growing frustration, the aliens still didn't understand one key thing: what Doc and the humans knew all along. It wasn't just the power of technology or advanced tactics that won wars. It was the unyielding will to fight for what was right, for what was loved, and for the future. And Doc was proving that humanity's will to survive was more than enough to face any threat the galaxy could throw at them. As the conflict between Earth and the alien invaders escalated, something within the alien ranks began to fracture. What they had once believed to be an easily conquerable species had turned into a nightmare. The humans, under Doc's guidance, were proving to be more resilient than even the most seasoned alien generals could comprehend. But the battle had reached a tipping point. Something had to give, and it wasn't going to be the humans. The alien fleet, now under heavy pressure from Earth's forces, had suffered several humiliating defeats. Their attempts to outmaneuver Doc's strategies were met with unexpected counterattacks. Every time they thought they had a plan in place, the humans found a way to turn it against them. The alien forces were faltering. Their resolve was crumbling. In a tense command meeting, the alien High Council gathered to discuss the situation. The mood was far from its usual confident tone. Every officer present understood the gravity of the situation. No longer were they speaking of victory, but of survival. "We need to neutralize Doc," the alien general said grimly, his voice laced with frustration. "The humans aren't following orders. They're following him. We must break their spirit, and Doc is the key." The thought of one human leading an entire world to war was incomprehensible to the aliens. They had always relied on superior technology, vast armies, and overwhelming force to subdue their enemies. But against the humans, all of that had failed. It wasn't their weapons that made them powerful. It was their unity, their strategy, and their leader, Doc. The aliens knew that taking out Doc would not be easy. They had seen the human leader's actions firsthand: calm under fire, strategic under pressure, and always one step ahead. But desperation breeds creativity, and as the aliens tried to find a way to break the humans, a plan began to form in their minds. Meanwhile, on Earth, the humans were becoming more aware of the growing danger. Earth's victory was far from assured. The alien forces were still massive, their technology superior in many ways. Yet they had underestimated Doc and the human resolve. With every battle, the humans fought harder. The stakes were clear now. If they failed, their world would be lost, and every sacrifice would have been in vain. Doc, however, was unfazed. Even though the alien forces were now fully aware of the human resistance and had begun targeting key leaders, including Doc, the human leader continued with the mission, never wavering, never losing sight of the bigger picture. To him, the battle wasn't just about military victory. It was about showing the galaxy that Earth wasn't a mere backwater world to be conquered. It was a force to be reckoned with. The humans, inspired by their leader's unshakable resolve, had begun to fight with an intensity never seen before. They weren't just defending their homes anymore. They were fighting for the very soul of humanity. The fight wasn't just against alien invaders. It was a fight against the very notion that humans were weak. The aliens, on the other hand, had no choice but to adapt. The idea of fighting Earth's warriors head-on was no longer viable. It was too risky. The human resistance was too well coordinated, too determined to be defeated in a conventional battle. The alien High Council made a final decision. They would launch a covert operation to remove Doc from the battlefield. They would do whatever it took to bring down the leader of the human forces. But they didn't anticipate one thing. Humans were not so easily tricked. Back in the heart of the human camp, Doc sat in quiet contemplation, watching the stars above. He knew the aliens would attempt something soon. They had no other options left. But he was ready. Doc wasn't just a leader of soldiers. He was a symbol, and symbols couldn't be destroyed by any weapon or scheme. Doc's mind raced as he thought of the aliens' next move. They would try to divide the humans, break their unity, take him out of the equation. But Doc understood something the aliens had yet to realize. The humans weren't fighting for him. They were fighting for their families, their future, and their planet. That's what made them stronger than any enemy, any weapon, or any fleet. The aliens, for all their power and technology, couldn't break the bond that united Earth's warriors. And that bond was enough to withstand whatever came next. The battle had reached a fever pitch. The galaxy watched in awe as Earth's forces, under the leadership of Doc, continued to hold their ground against the overwhelming alien invasion. The aliens, once so sure of their superiority, were now faltering, caught in a deadly dance with a species they had long underestimated. But Doc knew this couldn't last forever. Time was running out. In the alien command center, a sense of desperation hung heavy in the air. The time for conventional tactics had passed. They had lost too many battles, failed to anticipate human ingenuity at every turn. It was clear. They needed to do something drastic. Their final attempt to neutralize Doc was already in motion, a covert strike aimed directly at the heart of Earth's command structure. But Doc had anticipated this move. While the alien fleet prepared for their ultimate offensive, Doc was already one step ahead. With his deep understanding of the alien psyche and their tactics, he had devised a plan to turn the tables completely. He knew that this would be the moment where everything would either fall apart or come together. He gathered his closest allies, military commanders, strategists, and technicians, and laid out the plan. It was a risk, the kind of gamble that only a handful of leaders would dare take. But Doc wasn't just any leader. He had seen firsthand the strength of his people, the fire in their hearts, and the sheer willpower that drove them to fight. "We can't beat them with brute force," Doc said, his voice calm but resolute. "But we don't need to. We need to make them believe they've won. Then we strike. We'll give them exactly what they expect and more." The humans had already proven that they were no ordinary species, and now Doc would prove that their greatest strength was not in their weapons, but in their ability to surprise. As the alien forces prepared for their final assault, Doc unleashed the most unexpected move of all. The Earth Alliance would pretend to surrender. The news spread like wildfire through both human and alien ranks. Earth had given up. The resistance was broken. Doc was captured. The alien forces celebrated, convinced that their conquest was now inevitable. But in truth, it was all part of Doc's master plan. They had been lulled into a false sense of victory. As the alien fleet celebrated, Earth's hidden forces spread across the galaxy, moved into action. The humans had left their best weapon in plain sight. While the aliens reveled in their supposed victory, they had failed to notice the quiet gathering of human forces on the fringes of their operations. And now, it was too late. The moment the alien fleet began to lower its guard, Earth's final strike hit. It wasn't just a military attack, it was a psychological one. The humans launched a series of devastating counterattacks, using their knowledge of the aliens' weaknesses and their own guerrilla tactics to dismantle the alien fleet. Every alien ship that fell sent shockwaves through their ranks, and the once celebratory atmosphere quickly turned to panic. Doc had never been captured. He had been orchestrating this counterattack from the shadows the entire time, waiting for the perfect moment. The alien forces, caught off guard and scrambling, found themselves facing an Earth they could no longer understand. The tables had turned, and now it was the aliens who were scrambling for survival. With their command structure crumbling, the remaining alien forces began to retreat. It was a crushing defeat, and as the alien fleet fled the solar system, it became clear Earth had won. But the war was not just a victory for Doc and the humans. It was a victory for the spirit of Earth itself. The aliens had come to conquer, believing themselves to be superior in every way. But they had underestimated something far greater than military might: the unyielding resolve of humanity. In the aftermath of the battle, as the dust settled and Earth's leaders gathered to discuss the future, one thing was certain. Doc had proven what no one had ever imagined. The humans were no longer just survivors. They were a force to be reckoned with, and the galaxy would never forget the day the Deathworlders decided to stop being nice. Doc stood silently, watching the stars outside the command room window. He had led his people through unimaginable odds, and now they were ready to rebuild. But the victory wasn't just about defeating an enemy. It was about showing the universe that Earth would no longer be ignored, that humanity's place in the galaxy was no longer up for debate. The galaxy had learned an unforgettable lesson that day. The story of Doc and Earth's victory would spread to every corner of the cosmos, and as long as humanity stood united, there would be no force in the galaxy that could ever challenge them again. The galaxy would remember that Doc was not just a leader. He was a symbol of what humanity could achieve when they fought together. And no one would ever dare underestimate Earth again.